Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another box set battle. Today's box set battle is an Arrow video special. It's Japanese monster films. It's the DAIMAJIN set, and it is the YOKAI Monsters collection, which is just out fairly recently. Also, Japan has a long tradition of monster films, kaiju films, which are the big monsters, and yokai and ghost stories, which go way back to the Edo period in the 1600s when things started being written down. And cinematically, they've had a rich history from the 50s, obviously Godzilla in the 50s. These two sets are amongst Arrow's most beautiful from an aesthetic point of view. Obviously, you can probably stream them, but I mean, the DAIMAJIN set might be the most beautiful set Arrow have done. I mean, obviously the Gamera set's pretty nice as well. So these are just slotted in there. The DAIMAJIN trilogy has a really nice book, and it has the trilogy of films, each in their own slim case. This is the original film. These are from '66. I think these were made pretty much in the space of less than 18 months. The Yokai films were '68 and '69, and they were made pretty much in the space of 18 months. You get a little art card as a poster, and for each of them you get the reversible artwork. But I actually really like the newly commissioned artwork. DAIMAJIN is essentially this stone effigy that comes to life and helps people out, even although he's still fairly stone-faced. It's kind of, you get the feeling he just destroys the greater of the two evils. The three films are fairly similar. I mean, the first one, it takes a while for him to appear. The second one's probably the best one. That's Return of DAIMAJIN, or DAIMAJIN. And again, you get the reversible artwork, as well as the newly commissioned artwork. I mean, these films are immensely enjoyable. I'm kind of a weirdo. I actually prefer the films in these two sets to the Godzilla films. I kind of prefer the Gamera set to the Godzilla films as well. I do have the Godzilla Criterion, and that is a nostalgic thing. It's great to have them because I remember watching them as a kid, whereas obviously I haven't seen these ones before getting these sets. And the final one is Wrath of DAIMAJIN, which they change it up because it's in the snow. There's a nice sulphur pit. There's nice crucifixions in the second one. I'm not going to go into the plots too much because it's fairly similar. There's oppression, and then DAIMAJIN turns up and vanquishes the foes. All these films, with one exception in the Yokai set, which I'll get to, are all under like an hour and a half. They're really easy watches, and they're a lot of fun. That's the DAIMAJIN set. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful box set. And then we have the Yokai Monsters collection, which again has beautiful artwork on it. And this has the 3 films from 68 and 69, so you have 100 monsters. Spoiler alert, there's not actually 100 monsters in the film. You have Spook Warfare, and you have Along with Ghosts. And the thing that really sold me on it, even though I was going to get it anyway, but the thing that really sold me is you get Takashi Miike's The Great Yokai War, which I've done a video on the channel before. I had it in DVD, but seeing it in Blu-ray is quite wonderful. Plus, when you watch the first 3 films, you actually get a greater appreciation of Miike's film, because near the end of the film he pays homage to the writer who kind of brought the yokai back into the mainstream through his manga, his comics. So yokai are kind of monsters and ghosts, but not the kind of J-horror type ghosts. They are kind of a mix. So essentially, as the extras state, Pokemon are essentially yokai. Lots of things are yokai. There's a wonderful extra on the first disc that talks about essentially the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are essentially derived from yokai, because there's a kind of turtle man version called Kappa. They've all got their own names. They've all got their own kind of history. There's so many different types. So yokai is just kind of a collective term for these kind of creatures. So again, in the yokai set, you get a poster. But what's good about the poster is you actually get a kind of glossary. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that, but you get a kind of description of all the different kinds of yokai, which is really quite wonderful. And then you just get that without the words. So you almost get like a nice glossary of the different yokai and what their attributes are. And again, you have a booklet, which is the same artwork that's on the box set. And again, you have essays and wonderful images. So these films, they're not really, I mean, I suppose they're teenage children films, but not young children. I mean, there is blood in the films, but it's never nasty. So the first case has the 3 60s films. So you have 1,000 Monsters on its own disc, and then you have Spook Warfare and Along with Ghosts on a disc together. Again, you have the reversible artwork, so you can choose which one you want. And then the other case has the Miike remake homage from 2003, which looks fantastic. I mean, my DVD isn't really that great, but the prints on all of these films are just absolutely wonderful. But Miike's film really looks pretty wonderful. You also get art cards, as you come to expect. And again, you have the reversible artwork. But again, for this set, I think I prefer the newly commissioned artwork for these films. So 100 Monsters, say they're kind of similar to DAIMAJIN as far as these creatures kind of appear to help people out, or in the second film, which we'll get to help themselves out. So the first film is about this clan that's land grabbing and wants to tear down a neighbourhood and replace it with a brothel, and the local people are obviously up in arms about this, and the yokai turn up to sort them all out. The second film, which I think is the best one, Spook Warfare, which is a similar story. I think Miki, it's a loose kind of remake of Spook Warfare. This is about a Babylonian vampire. Yep, it's about a Babylonian vampire who wakes up after 4,000 years due to prophecy, as these things do. There's tomb raiders that disturb his tomb, as they always do. So this Babylonian vampire comes and takes over the local official and wreaks havoc, and the yokai get involved. The kappa, the water spirit that is in the grounds, in the pool in the grounds, he is disturbed by this and he gets involved. I mean, this one is just so wonderful because you have the group, but then because the vampire is so powerful, they have to enlist the help of yokai from around the countryside. So it ends up being literally warfare with a cast of, there might be 100 yokai in this one. And the end of the film is actually very moving. I'm obviously not going to tell you what that's about, but the end of the film is very moving. And then you have the third one, Along with Ghosts, which is the one where they put a kid in it, as the third DAIMAJIN film did. But this one, you know, sometimes, you know, Gamera and Godzilla films would, you know, feature children to less or more annoying effect. But the story in this one is really good. There's a clan who meets another faction from a clan. They've bought information to hide their wrongdoings. It's a sacred site. There's an old man who you'll recognise his face from Kurosawa films, amongst other things. I should say there's people from the Gamera and Godzilla films and Zatoichi films. You'll recognise all the faces, or a lot of the faces. And he tells him you can't spill blood or you'll get cursed, because this is hallowed ground. This is the area where all the spirits come out once a year. Needless to say, there's death involved and a curse, and there's a little girl who not only kind of witnesses what's happened, but she picks up the evidence, essentially. So the film is a chase with this clan chasing the little girl, and she gets a protector along the way and a boy who helps her out. And there's also a kind of subplot with her looking for her father, because the old man who dies at the start, the guy who's praying at this sacred site, he's been looking after her, but now she has to go and find her father. It's a really well done kind of story, and it's engaging, and the kid isn't annoying, as sometimes kids can be in these kind of films, or just films in general. I mean, one criticism of this one is the yokai aren't actually in it that much until the end. It's a similar complaint to I think the last DAIMAJIN, and also the first DAIMAJIN. That's a slow build. So the yokai aren't in it as much, and some of our favourite yokai aren't in it, like the long-necked woman. Who doesn't like the long-necked woman? She's not actually in the third one. But all in all, they're really watchable. I mean, they're all under probably 85 minutes, but they don't need to be any longer. They kind of race along at a really good clip. The grandfather gives the little girl a couple of dice that will prove that she's her father's son when she meets him, and the story behind the dice is just absolutely wonderful. So that's the 3 films in the original trilogy in the 60s, and then we have Takashi Miike's Great Yokai War, which, like I said, I have done a video on. And I mean, I have a soft spot for the Great Yokai War, but actually watching the original ones from the 60s and then rewatching the Miike one, for I think it's about the third or fourth time I've seen it, you get a greater appreciation because Miike is paying homage, and I think he does a really good job of paying homage to the original films, and then the nod to the kind of one of the most inspirational as far as the manga. You know, he does a nice homage to him as well. So these two box sets, if you're interested in Japanese cinema or Japanese cinema from the 60s and 70s, or you're into monster movies and ghost movies, these are both absolutely wonderful sets, and they are both beautiful releases. Again, if you prefer streaming, good luck to you, but I mean, these are absolutely beautiful box sets. I think I've maybe said before I was kind of swithering on the DAIMAJIN set, but I was actually, the films are really enjoyable and they're really good, and the Yokai set, with having the original trilogy and then the Miike kind of remake homage, is just wonderful. So I mean, this is a really close battle, I have to say. Again, there's no loser in these battles because they're both absolutely wonderful. But if I have to say one slightly over the other, I would go with the Yokai Monsters collection. Yes, it's 4 films instead of 3, so that always helps. I mean, my favourite is Spook Warfare. It's absolutely wonderful. There's lots of really good stuff in it, but the other 3 films are so enjoyable as well. Again, all 7 of these films are perfect examples of, you know, you don't need to make films longer than they actually should be. Yeah, a couple of the DAIMAJIN are maybe a little bit, 5-10 minutes too long. But the Yokai Monsters collection is so good. And again, Arrow has been criticised for re-releasing Argentos and re-releasing Argentos in different formats. But for me, if they use the money they make from the Argento re-releases and put them into box sets like this, which have been rarely seen, and they're actually shedding new light on films like this, I think it's well worth getting the 6 different version of Argento films released. Yeah, so thanks very much for watching. Please let me know which box set you prefer, the DAIMAJIN or the Yokai set, and hopefully you'll join me again for more box set battles, which are always predicated on me actually finishing box sets, which sometimes takes a bit longer. But with the Yokai set and the DAIMAJIN, I pretty much watched them and completed them over the space of what counts to pretty much a day, because again, they're really watchable films. They're not long films, and you can easily get through a box set. It doesn't take that long. So thanks so much for watching. Again, leave your comments below. This is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films saying farewell.